Resistance to agricultural pest control products, whether the pest is an insect or a weed, is a problem for the entire agricultural community. That's why the National Cotton Council continues to provide educational material related to resistance management. I hope you've had an opportunity to view the Council's first DVD titled Resistance Weeds, which features 4 producers, each from a different state, describing how herbicide-resistant weeds have impacted their farm operations and budgets. This DVD provides more technical information to assist you in managing your weed control to minimize the impact of resistant weeds. A key point in dealing with resistance, or the threat of it, is management. Weed control requires careful management and timely execution. Prior to the release of glyphosate, producers were well aware of weed control management. Producers understood principles like scouting fields, proper ID of weeds, proper calibration of equipment, timely applications based on the height of the weed, use of residuals, and many other weed management principles. Additionally, producers knew that if they allowed weeds to get above a certain height, they would be restricted to plows, hooded sprayers, and hoe crews in order to control the weed population. Glyphosate seemed to be less sensitive to some of those management principles like plant height, timing, etc., and most of us became relaxed in our weed management programs. Now we are faced with weeds resistant to glyphosate that force us to return to weed management principles. Let me be clear, weeds had developed resistance to herbicides before glyphosate was discovered. The issue of resistance existed before glyphosate, and resistance management has been taught since before the discovery of glyphosate. Field failures of herbicides occurred before the discovery of glyphosate. The popularity of glyphosate resistance issues merely reflects the large market that was taken over by glyphosate herbicide. In the early 90s, the herbicide crisis was weeds resistant to ALS herbicide chemistry. Some examples of ALS herbicides include Canopy, Staple, and Harmony. The message at the time was the same as the message today. The resistance management principles have not changed, but they are only as effective when the producers adopt and practice those methods. Resistance management requires effort, planning, time, and timeliness of execution. I point this out to emphasize that we are running out of options for weed control, and if we don't take care of the few chemistries left, then how will we manage weeds? Please be aware that there are no new modes of actions to rescue us this time. At best, we can tell there are no new herbicide discoveries in the pipeline, and that means no new products for the next 5 or more years. That raises particular concerns for the preservation of glufosinate, or Ignite, because if we don't manage the use of this herbicide, experts say we could quickly lose it too. The National Cotton Council developed the segments on this DVD with the cooperation of several weed scientists who have concentrated work in the area of herbicide-resistant weeds. We asked them to share information with you through this video that would help you in your weed management decisions. We greatly appreciate their willingness to participate in this DVD. Dr. Bob Nichols discusses the seed production and biology of Palmer pigweed that will help you understand why it spreads so fast. Dr. Stanley Culpepper shows some field plots in Georgia resistant to both glyphosate and ALS chemistries and shares some tips used in Georgia to begin control of these resistant weeds. Dr. Larry Steckel highlights some of his field plots in Tennessee where he demonstrates control of glyphosate-resistant Palmer pigweed. Dr. Jason Norsworthy discusses the diagnosis of resistance, ways to avoid resistance, and critical weaknesses in many herbicide products. Dr. Ken Smith discusses control of horseweed in cotton and field plots demonstrating Palmer pigweed control in corn. These segments are set up separately to let you view them as you choose. Watch one tonight and another the next time it rains, or if your team is losing too bad to watch. As you view the different segments, I would ask you to be aware of a few quick points. The first is, what is an active ingredient? When you buy a herbicide, you generally buy a mixture of chemicals. Some of those chemicals help the product stick on the plant, Some assist everything mixing well together, and some actually affect the weed in a negative way. The active ingredient is the chemical that affects the weed in a negative way. What is mode of action? Mode of action is the way the active ingredient negatively affects the weed or where the action takes place. There are some herbicides with different names but the same active ingredient. There are some herbicides with different names, different active ingredients, but the same mode of action. That is pointed out because rotating the mode of action is the most important concept in herbicide resistance management. I hope you enjoy these videos.